Yo, what's going on, gamers? It's your boy wtfmikxy here, and today I'm going to be going over the 5-star selector. But before we get into that, I just wanted to announce that today is my birthday, and Honkai Star Rail did the favor of sending me 100 stellar jades and a birthday cake. So happy birthday to me, and let's get right into the video. So if you are new to the game, when you start off Honkai Star Rail, you are given a free 5-star character from the standard banner. Now that 5-star character could be amongst these 7 characters. Those 7 characters being Himiko, Welt, Bronya, Japard, Clara, Yangching, or Bailu. So in this video, we're going to be talking about each and every individual character and how they will benefit you and your team. I would also like to note that each and every individual player is different depending on which teams and which characters they have on them. So with that out of the way, we can finally get into it, as we are going to start off with Himiko from the standard banner. Himiko is an erudition character, and after she breaks an enemy's weakness, this character can deliver a follow-up attack against all enemies. Himiko also has a technique ability that increases fire damage received by enemies. So before going into more of what Himiko does as a character, I just wanted to let you guys know that for Calyx farming and for pure fiction, Himiko is one of the best characters to use for this endgame content and farming XP stuff. Now, another cool thing about Himiko is that Herta is actually the easiest character in the game to get E6 besides the Trailblazer. So if you pair a Herta with a Himiko, you get non-stop follow-up attacks. And then if you pair these two characters together with a character like Ruan Mei, where she has really good break effect, this will enable both of those characters to do a lot of follow-up attack damage. And as far as your 4-slot character goes, you can run a healer like Natasha or Lynx if you're free to play, or if you have a 5-star limited banner sustainer like Fu Xuan or Adventuring, you could also use Hua Hua, but pretty much the 4th option is kind of a flex roll, so you can run whatever works for you. Moving on to Himiko's abilities, Saw Blade Tuning is a basic attack that deals minor fire damage to a single enemy. Molten Detonation is a skill that deals fire damage to a single enemy and minor fire damage to enemies adjacent to it. And as for Himiko's ultimate Heavenly Flare, it deals fire damage to all enemies and regenerates energy if enemies are defeated. Moving on to Victory Rush is Himiko's talent, which gains a charge stack when an enemy's weakness is broken. After an ally performs an attack, if fully charged, immediately performs a follow-up attack and deal fire damage to all enemies, consuming all charge stacks, gains 1 charge stack at the start of each battle. And lastly, Himiko's technique called Incomplete Combustion creates a dimension after entering combat with enemies in the dimension. There's a high chance to increase fire damage taken by enemies. And if you don't have a Himiko when it comes time for your 300 selector pick, she's really not a bad unit. She's really good for speedrunning your dailies and your industrial peace guide if you're just trying to speedrun those XP books so you can level up your next character. And like I said before, she's a really strong unit when it comes to pure fiction. Next up, we have Welt, who is a Nihility 5-star imaginary character that causes all enemies to have their action delayed and become inflicted with slow. He deals extra damage to enemies inflicted with slow and increases damage received by all enemies. So if you're into an issue where your characters are getting downed way too fast and you need a character to delay characters' actions, Welt is the character for you. Despite Welt coming from the standard banner, he is still a strong unit to date. And if you're the player that's looking for a hybrid support character that can deal damage and delay enemy turns, Welt is definitely worth selecting for the 300 selector. And also, not to mention, Nihility is one of the most broken paths in Honkai Star Rail for clearing content. So to start off with Welt's abilities, his basic attack, Gravity Suppression, deals minor imaginary damage to a single enemy, while his skill, Edge of the Void, deals minor imaginary damage to a single enemy. This attack can bounce 3 times with the chance of slowing the hit enemies. As for Welt's ultimate, Synthetic Black Hole, deals imaginary damage to all enemies with a high chance of imprisoning them. Then for Welt's talent, Time Distortion, when hitting a slowed enemy, additionally deals minor imaginary additional damage. And lastly, as for Welt's technique, Gravitational Imprisonment, it creates a dimension. Enemies in this dimension have their movement speed reduced. After entering combat with enemies in the dimension, there is a high chance for the enemies to become imprisoned. All in all, I would consider selecting Welt as far as your 300 selection goes if you do not have a really good support character. Being able to imprison enemies, completely taking them out of the game, and also reducing enemies' turns by slowing them down is really strong for a turn-based game like Honkai Star Rail, so I would really consider selecting Welt if you do not have him. Moving on to one of my personal favorite units in the game, the Wind Harmony character Bronya. Bronya allows a single ally to immediately take action and increase their damage. She also increases attack and crit damage of all allies, and she's capable of dispelling a debuff from a single ally at a time. As a coin flip from Welt, Bronya is the character that makes actions happen faster, making her one of the strongest units in the game. I would also like to note that Harmony is one of the strongest paths in the game, and you should really consider picking up some Harmony characters. In my opinion, there are no bad Harmony characters. Every single Harmony character has their benefits and will benefit you in the long run, which is why Bronya is a must pick. As for Bronya's basic attack, Wind Rider Bullet deals minor wind damage to a single enemy. As for her skill, Combat Redeployment dispels one debuff debuff from a single ally, increases the damage they deal, and allows them to immediately take action. Her ultimate, the Bellabog March, increases attack and crit damage of all allies, while Bronya's talent leading the way. When she uses her basic attack, their next action will be advance forward. And lastly, as far as her technique goes, Banner of the Command, after she uses her technique, it increases all allies attack at the start of battle. Bronya for the 5-star standard banner selector is a must pick. Let's recap. Not only does Bronya provide damage boosts to characters, she also will advance their action forward. And when other units of your team are inflicted with debuffs, she will remove them for you. I know when I personally get my 5-star standard banner selector, after 300 pulls, I am 100% pulling Bronya. And for me, I already have her light cone, so this just gives me more of a reason to pull her. Bronya is not only very valuable for all the free-to-play players as far as a Harmony character goes, but if you're also a player that only likes to pull 5-star limited banner characters that are DPS, Bronya is the character for you. And as we know, limited banner characters are always better than the standard banner characters. This just doesn't seem to be the case with Bronya, as she holds a torch of her own. Moving on to Gepard, an ice character who follows the path of preservation. Gepard provides a shield to all allies and can apply frozen to enemies. And when Gepard has received a killing blow for the first time in battle, this would not result in him being down. So in the past, I've been deceived about my opinions on Gepard until I really got into the gist of playing Honkai Star Rail. Gepard is one of the most versatile units that is coming from the standard banner. As Gepard is one of the most versatile characters in the game, he can fit into almost any team compositions. With that said, Gepard's basic attack, Fist of Conviction, deals minor ice damage to a single enemy, while his skill, Daunting Smite, deals ice damage to a single enemy with the chance of freezing them. As for Gepard's ultimate, Enduring Bulwark, provides a shield to all allies. As for Gepard's talent, Unyielding Will, when he's struck by a killing blow, instead of being knocked down, immediately restores HP. This effect can only trigger one time per battle though. And lastly, as far as technique goes, Camaraderie, after he uses his technique, all allies gain a shield at the start of their next battle. Gepard is a really strong unit as he does not die after his first knock, and on top of that, he provides shields for your team. And the crazy thing is that Gepard can provide those shields before or during the fight. As far as his value for the 300 selector of the standard banner, especially if you're like me who are still rocking free-to-play healers like Natasha and Lynx, having one good sustainer like Gepard would change the game for sure. Moving on to another one of my personal favorite characters, Clara, who is a physical type that follows the path of destruction. Clara can counter enemy attacks, and she deals extra damage to the enemies that have attacked her, and she can also decrease the damage that she receives. There is a big misconception that Clara is a bad unit, and I hate it when people say that. Clara for me personally was my free 5-star character that I got at the beginning of my journey on Honkai Star Rail. So for those of you who are saying she is bad, I couldn't disagree more. Clara's basic attack, I want to help, deals minor physical damage to a single enemy, while her skill, Severog watches over you, deals physical damage to all enemies, additionally deals physical damage to targets with mark of counter. And as far as Clara ultimate goes, Promise Not Command, she reduces damage received, increases chances to be attacked by enemies, and enhances counters. And as for her talent, because we're family, damage received from enemies attacked is reduced. Enemies who attack Clara will be marked with a mark of counter and met with Severog's counter, dealing physical damage. And lastly, as far as Clara's technique, A Small Praise for Victory, attacks the enemy after entering battle. This character's chance of being attacked by enemies increases. Clara is a very powerful unit that, if she's used right with the correct team comps, can dish out a lot of damage. And not only that, she is very strong for in-game content like Pure Fiction. Clara is the most tankiest DPS character in the game, so if you're looking for a damage character that isn't dying instantly, this is the character for you. As far as picking Clara for your standard banner 300 selector, it's kind of up to you, and it's depending on your situation. Not only is Clara a really good unit for Pure Fiction, but for Swarm Disaster and also Ron May's story, Clara easily solos the fights in these. Next up, we have my most least favorite character on this list, who is an ice character that follows the path of the hunt, named Yangqing. When Yangqing is unharmed, he will grant continual increase of crit rate and crit damage. And after Yangqing uses his skill, all attacks from him will have a chance of triggering a follow-up attack. Now, don't get me wrong, you could build any character to deal lots of damage in this game. However, I'm personally bitter because I've lost my 50-50 to Yangqing before, and he is absolutely the worst character on the standard banner in my opinion. And yes, I did say before you can build any character to deal lots of damage, but Yangqing is just a DPS character that really isn't useful. And I'm saying that from the perspective of the 5-star standard banner selector. With that said, Yangqing's basic attack, Frost Thorn, deals minor ice damage to a single enemy, while a skilled Darting Iron Thorn deals ice damage to a single enemy and activates the Soul Steel Sync. As for Yangqing's ultimate, Amidst the Raining Bliss, increases Yangqing's crit rate, enhances Soul Steel Sync, and deals massive ice damage to a single enemy. And as for Yangqing's talent, One with the Sword, during Soul Steel Sync, reduces the chance of Yangqing being attacked and increases Yangqing's crit rate and crit damage after attacking an enemy. There's a chance of a launching a follow-up attack, dealing ice damage with the chance to freeze the target. Soul Steel Sync will be removed after Yangqing receives damage. And as for Yangqing's technique, the One True Sword, after Yangqing uses his technique, at the start of the next battle, increases the damage dealt by Yangqing to enemy targets whose HP is 50% or higher. Now, personally for me, even when I did play Yangqing for the little time that I did, he just feels all in all very boring to play. And on top of that, he's very weak because he's from the standard banner and he's a DPS character. And in Honkai Star Rail, DPS characters get power crept really badly. And also with the release of Acheron being the best DPS character in the game to date, there is really no use in selecting Yangqing as your 300 standard banner selector, as there is so many better options from the standard banner list that we just went over. Now, last but not least, we have the lightning character that follows the path of abundance, Bailu. Bailu immediately heals allies who have been dealt a killing blow, and also provides a healing mark that immediately restores HP when allies take damage. There is a heavy misconception that Bailu sucks as a character, and I'm sitting here in my chair like all I have is a Lynx and a Natasha and a Gallagher. I would kill to have Bailu as my standard banner character for the sole fact that her healing abilities are actually pretty good. So let's go over Bailu. Her basic attack, Diagnostic Kick, deals minor lightning damage to a single enemy, while Bailu's skill, Singing Among Clouds, restores HP for a single ally, then heals random allies. Bailu's ultimate, Felicia's Thunder Leap, restores HP for all allies and grants them invigoration or prolongs the duration of their invigoration. As for Bailu's talent, Gourdful of Elixir, when an ally with invigoration is attacked, restores HP for that ally. When an ally suffers a killing blow, Bailu immediately restores their HP. This effect can only trigger for one time per battle. And lastly, for Bailu's technique, Saunter in the Rain, after Bailu uses technique at the start of the next battle, all allies are granted invigoration. For me personally, I would love to take Bailu as a healer because having Lynx, Natasha, and Gallagher just isn't really cutting it for me right now. I have a whole bunch of good DPS characters and good harmony characters, and the problem is I didn't really focus too much on my abundance or my sustainers. And with that said, Bailu is not a bad healer. She can revive down characters, which is amazing. Also, her healing abilities beats all the characters I mentioned before by a tenfold. So although Bailu may not be my number one pick on the 5-star 300 selection, Bailu is still a very strong and capable unit of doing what you need to get done as far as staying alive in a fight. Who will you guys be choosing in the 5-star standard banner selector? Because I know I'm personally choosing Bronya. Make sure you guys comment which character you're picking from the 5-star standard banner selector. And while you're down there, join the community Discord. Make sure you smash the subscribe button down below as well so you can find your way back to the channel. That'll be it for now. Peace.